allowed to or not. That was the Gemara discussion yesterday. So we're still in the middle figuring that out. Okay. Toshma. The Gemara says, to answer questions, when the Gemara poses a question, you got to go ahead and look at the precedent. What precedents do we have on the books, so to speak? So we're on 13a3, bottom of the page, first column. Toshma lo yochel hazavim hazava. Izav, and remember, the Gemara says the reason why maybe it should be the possibility to even possibly think it might be allowed is because maybe the two people, the husband and wife, maybe they'll remind each other. And also, besides the fact they'll remind each other, they also have done something, the fact that they're wearing clothing, that also will help, maybe that will help serve them to be a good reminder. So the Gemara says, Toshma lo yochel azav mazava. So we said azav is someone, a man who has an unusual discharge. And that unusual discharge will make him tamei, will make him, contaminate him. And a zava is a lady who has a period not at her expected time, when she's not expecting her period. So when she's a zava, her impurity means that it would be a very serious sin to have relations with her, to be intimate with her, just like it's a serious sin to be intimate with a nidah when she has a normal period. So when a lady has not a normal period, when a time when she's not expecting, when it's not the usual time for a period, there's a big sin to have relations with her. So we see that there's a fence to protect that a person won't come to that a person won't come to sin with this dava, with this lady similar to a nidah, one Emmanuel and one Asaf. And what is that? What do we say? Don't eat together. You can't eat off the same plate. If you want to eat together, if you want to eat at the same table, you have to go ahead and do something, put some sort of sign on the table. But here, or maybe you can't eat together as like one. So the Gemara says, and what's the reason? Mishum hergel avera. The zav and the zava can't eat together because we're afraid that there might lead to sin, that the zav and the zava eat together. So if you're afraid that if the zav and the zava just merely eating together would lead to possibility of having relations, how much more so should you be concerned that if a woman and a man are on the same bed, and that there's a concern, and they're going to go to sleep on the same bed, that even though that they're wearing their clothing, that should be much more of a concern than a zav and a zava eating together. And if the zav and the zava can't eat together, so certainly you can't sleep on the same bed. So the Gemara says, you can't compare the two. Hachinami deyot ika shinileka. Meaning the issue over there, like we said, the issue of the husband and the wife, if they're a zav and a zava, they can't eat together is because they didn't do anything to remind themselves the fact that they didn't put something on the table to separate between them. They didn't do some sort of unusual thing to serve as a reminder. They just want to eat in the normal fashion, like together share a plate or these type of things. So there we don't say that the fact that the two adults, they'll remind each other and they won't forget. We don't rely on that. But here, the Gemara says, but this deyot ikashinileka, they didn't do anything different. If you don't do anything different and you'll eat with your wife in the normal fashion together off the same plate, like one, so they were concerned, the rabbis are concerned, you might come to have relations. But however, if the woman and the man, the husband and the wife, are wearing clothing, where not only they're there to remind each other, but they're also doing something that they're physically making some sort of thing to remind them besides themselves, besides their minds, their actions of wearing the clothing. So maybe that would be sufficient. That's what the Gemara says. You can't prove from the case of the fact that these two people can't eat together, but they didn't do anything to remind each other, just relying on themselves without something, some physical, tangible, something different. Good morning, Ralph.
Morning, Rabbi.
So that's what the Gemara. The Gemara is still back to the drawing board regarding this question. The Gemara says, Tashma, I have another. I want to come in here from the following, and let's see if the following could answer our question. Morning. The Gemara says, there's a pasuk that says, this pasuk is talking about a person who's very pious, very righteous person. So it says that this righteous person, El Harim Lo Achal, he didn't eat by the mountains. Now, what does mean he didn't eat by the mountains? The Avot, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are the mountains. They're like the mountains. They are the strength of the Jewish people. And there are some people that their panasah, their financial stability and abilities that they have is because of the merit of their ancestors. Because of their merit of the ancestors of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, you are children of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So you're a prince. Prince has to be taken care of, right? So you are. So in there, many people, are supported by God. Supports them because you're the children of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So because of that, you're on the payroll, so to speak. You're going to get. How do you like that? It sounds like a good thing, right? And you're going to get Morning Emmanuel, financial help from God because of that. But then there are the righteous people that don't have to tap in to the merits of their forefathers in order for them to have their parnasah, to get their financial stability, rather their own merits. As a result of their own merits, that they are deserving on their own to get the financial stability. So that's El Harim Lo Achal. This pious person, does not need to go ahead and get from the mountains. Ve'inav lo nasa el gilule Beit Yisrael. This righteous person does not raise his eyes to look at statues, to look at idols. That this type of person, a righteous person, doesn't look at idols. We'll look at the pasuk in Yecheskel. It's in Perik Yetches, Perik Yetchet pasuk Vav. It says, "Ve'inav lo nasel gulei over the kochavim." So the Metzudas David says he didn't look at the idols. Doesn't look at idols. That Eishes re'eyu lo timei. And obviously, he does not have relations with someone else's wife. Now, obviously, you can ask the question: why do you need to? Isn't it obvious what even a person who's not so righteous doesn't go with someone else's wife? But it could be that this is the first Beis Hamikdash time period. The first Beis Hamikdash was destroyed because one of the problems was Gilui Arayot. They were having affairs with some people. There was some minority of the Jewish community that were having relations with other people's wives. They did the big sins in the first Beis Hamikdash. And I presume that, most probably society was a lot of immoral things going on in society that led to such things. So the righteous person does not Eshet Re'eu lo Itime is not connected with someone else's wife, and Ve'alisha Nida lo Yikrav. And also, he doesn't come close to a lady who's a Nida, meaning even to his own wife, who who's married to, but when she's in a state of Nida, when she's in a state of uncleanliness, she has a period, he doesn't get close to her. The Gemara says, this pasuk in Yechezkel, Makish Ishan Ida Leish Re'eu. The pasuk compares, groups together a lady that's an Ida to his friend's wife. And the connection is not, it's not only telling us that he did not do this, he wasn't with someone else's wife, and he wasn't with his wife when she was Nida. Rather, it's telling us other halachot as well. They're comparing them to each other also. It's not just an additionally, but rather they're compared to each other. Ma eshet re'eu, just like your friend's wife, even if hu bebigdo he bebigda asur, if your friend's wife, if you're wearing clothing and she's wearing clothing, you can't be in the same bed with your friend's wife. That nobody would ever suggest that with someone else's wife. You know that's definitely forbidden. Tosfos learns the reason why it's forbidden is the svara. Logically, they have to be forbidden if you be in the same bed, even if you're with clothing and she's with clothing, because the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, is very strong. If you're with your own wife and you have clothing on and she has clothing and it's a time when she's a Nida, so then maybe you could say there's a possibility to think perhaps there's a side of a coin to suggest that maybe because she's your wife, even though she's a Nida, she's forbidden to you today. But the fact that she will get to the mikveh when she's clean from a period, so you're more under control. You're more under control because you have the ability to be with her at a later time. But when we're dealing morning mark, but the Gemara's over there. But when we're dealing with someone else's wife, well, you don't have that opportunity at a later date. So the evil inclination is going to be very, very strong. What do you say to that, Adam? It's an opportunity, a very bad opportunity. We're saying there's a concept in halacha that when a person has, we'll call it bread in the basket, if he knows that he's able to be, there's a concept of a guy gets married, right? And he's a married man, his wife has a period, and then after his wife gets married, let's say a month into 3 weeks into the marriage, it's 2 weeks into the marriage, his wife got a period. He's allowed to be alone with it. He's allowed to be alone with his wife. We don't say your wife gets a period, we don't trust you. Maybe you're going to sin with her while she's in Nida. You can't be with someone else's wife alone. Yichud is forbidden with someone else's wife, but yet with your own wife, when she's in Nida, when she's forbidden to you, you're allowed to be alone. So what's the reason? One of the reasons behind that, because since she's your wife, and you're going to have an opportunity with her after she's get clean, and she goes to the mikveh, so therefore you're more under control. But someone else's wife, you don't have that opportunity. So if you're going to be alone with her, you might actually sin with her. You know, it's interesting halacha that if it's not so well publicized, but I could share it with everybody over here. That if a lady, if you get married, person gets married, now, and if the wife is a nida at the chuppah, so now if the wife's nida at the chuppah, the fact now they weren't a husband and wife before they're married, they're not supposed to be physical with each other. It's forbidden, big sin to be physical, having relation with each other. But she's a nida. So if she's a nida at the wedding, now obviously people do is they plan the wedding at a time period that she's not expecting to have a period. Right? So sometimes the nida could come because of the excitement and all the things going on. Sometimes the clock is like out of whack because of she's not sleeping properly. There's so much going on, you know. So, but the world doesn't come to an end, you know. The fact, but it's interesting halakha. They can't go home alone to their own house, privacy of their own house. Why? But since they never had relations with each other, to allow them to be home alone is too much. You can't put them in such a challenge. Therefore, they figure it out, however they figure it out what to do. But she wasn't a need at the wedding, and they had relations. Right, they're alone. Right. The fact they're alone in a room, that's enough time that they could have relations. But they're right. They won't be alone in that room. Also, right? Correct. At the wedding, the yichud at the wedding, they won't be alone in the room for a certain amount of time. Nobody'd have relations in that room when they're alone. But it's enough time that they could have relations. It's like a husband and a wife because they have enough time to have relations in that room. Right? They stay there enough time that they could have had. So therefore, that's being alone. That in itself is an act of showing of a husband and a wife, even though nothing's really they're not being intimate in that room. But if she's a nida, they can't go. But once she wasn't a nida at the wedding, once they were able to, once they had relations with each other, so now that we could trust them, they're under control, and therefore no one requires any. You hear that, Adam? No one's being intimate. In my humble opinion, nobody's being intimate in the room. Listen, I don't know what goes on in that room. Yeah, maybe it's the physical. Right. But nobody's. You're right. Now you got the answer. Come to right. Okay, nobody's. That's now. So the Gemara says the following. So the Gemara says. Okay. So the Gemara says we're talking about this pious person, and we're comparing. The pasuk compares, right, Ralph? The pasuk compares the nidah to the married woman. The Gemara is saying the comparison is to teach us a certain lesson as a law. What is the law? Ma eshet rehu, just like your friend's wife, even if hu bebigdov he bebigda asur, even if there's no question, we never had a question. Can a man be in his clothing and a woman, someone else's wife, be in her clothing and sleep on the same bed? No one questioned that. No one had the question. We understood that's never a question. Our whole question was a man and his wife. You're married to this woman, and she's in nida, and you're going to have opportunity with her at a later date. That's where we had a question. But now that the fact that the pasuk, the Navi Yecheskel, connects the nidah to the married woman, it's connecting it for a law, to teach us a law as well. What law? The same way that you won't be alone with the married, you wouldn't be you in your clothing, she in her clothing on one bed if someone else's wife. So too, the comparison is if your own wife when she's in nidah, you also can be in the same bed, you with your clothing and she with her clothing.
Someone else's wife
to his own
in the bed.
Wearing clothing in the bed with his own wife. Someone else's wife when she's obviously forbidden to you. She's someone else's wife. Your wife when she's in nidah, she's forbidden to you. So the same way someone else's wife who's forbidden to you, even if you're wearing clothing and you're alone. Yeah, you're wearing clothing. What's that? Right. And really, even if it's brought down, even if you're not alone, you still can't be in a bed with someone else's wife. So even though she's wearing clothing and you're wearing clothing, so too, the law is by nidah, your own wife, even if you're wearing clothing, she's wearing clothing, you can't be in that state. And the Gemara rests its case. Then the Gemara proves this point. The Gemara is satisfied with this point. But the Gemara says, but this shmamina, so we prove our point. But the Gemara says, upligad de Rav Pedat. This argues on Rav Pedat. How does this argue on Rav Pedat? Rapidat, according to a Rashi learns the Gemara, Rashi would learn that the man, the husband, and the wife could be on the same bed if he's wearing clothing, she's wearing clothing. They're going to remind you, you can rely on the fact that they're going to rely on each other, and you don't have to be afraid they're going to go ahead and have relations. Why? Because the Amar Rapidat says, Lo Asra Torah, this is what we were discussing, mentioned yesterday. El Kurva Shagila Rayut Bilvad. When the Torah says you can't, when you're not allowed to be with women that are forbidden to you, someone else's wife, the way we can learn it that way, someone else's wife, your own wife when she's forbidden to you, when she's a nidah. The only thing the Torah forbade was being intimate with her. If you're not being intimate with her, if you're not having a relation with her, if you're being physical, you're hugging, you're kissing, it's not a biblical prohibition according to Rapidat, which the other opinion would hold it is a biblical prohibition. So we have a dispute if being physical with one's wife when she's in nidah, is that not being intimate, is that a biblical prohibition or a rabbinic prohibition? So Rapidat says the Torah is only touching, hugging, kissing, but not being intimate, not having relations. Is that a biblical prohibition? Or we call shomer negiyah that they talk about today. Are you shomer negiyah? Are you careful not to touch? Which, when they say not touch, means not touching with affection. It's for not doesn't mean when you're handing her a piece of cake. They're not talking about handing a piece of cake. They're not talking about giving her a dollar bill. Right. Those are all about fences. Those are fences. That everybody agrees is a fence. That's it, very certainly, right? It's not being physical in any physical way. But if you go ahead and you get physical, a kiss, is that biblically prohibited or rabbinically prohibited? So Rapidat says it's rabbinically prohibited. Being that's the case, the way Rashi says, so even if she's not wearing clothing or whatever, let's say we'll call it like this way: kissing, hugging would be rabbinically prohibited. So if you are doing something like wearing clothing, then now you're further away. You distance yourself from that. Meaning, he's not so concerned that you're going to go ahead and, meaning, what are you afraid? If she's wearing clothing, she's wearing clothing, he's looking at it, maybe this concern is maybe you're going to go ahead and kiss her. But he's not as concerned that you're going to go ahead and have relations. So therefore, you're a couple of steps, you're further removed. Morning, Morris. Right, touching and touching and affection, exactly. But if you're doing something which is not affection, okay, it happens to you are sleeping in the same bed, but you're wearing your clothing on, you're showing you're not being at that level of affection. So according to this, how Rashi learns the Gemara, according to that, it would be allowed the husband and the wife, when she's in the state of nidah, to be in the same bed if he's wearing clothing and she's wearing clothing. They're doing something to remind them in a very serious fashion of this state. But that's not obviously the halacha. The halacha does not follow Rapidat. The halacha you'll see the letter on of the Dalet that takes it to the Yeridea, to Shulchan Aruch, which says when a lady's in nidah, if she's wearing clothing, if he's wearing clothing, it is forbidden. So that is, and by the way, this is in halacha. The Rambam, Maimonides, and Nachmanides have this machloket, whether there's a biblical prohibition to be physical with a woman when she's in nidah, or the women that are forbidden to you without being intimate. Is there a Torah prohibition? And if there is a Torah prohibition, it would carry lashes, meaning to sleep with a nidah, intimate with a nidah is kareh, much stronger, higher level punishment. Cut off, morning, Shlomo. Like Rashi, right? The Rambam says, cut off from the next row. The person loses so much. But being, what do you say? He can do tshuva, yes. He can do tshuva. A person can and not be cut off. Right, 100%. You're right. I should say that. Of course, a person can do tshuva while they're alive. That's the main thing. They got to do tshuva. They got to repent, and then it's erased. But if but if being not being careful with negiyah, being physical with a woman, with your wife when she's in nidah, or someone or any girl that when she's in nidah, according to Maimonides, it carries lashes punishment on a Torah level, and according to Nachmanides, it's a rabbinic prohibition. It's not a Torah prohibition. And that seems to be the two opinions in our Gemara right here. But Rabbi Das says the only thing the Torah forbade, there are rabbinic lashes. We have to see which cases they give rabbinic lashes, but there is such thing called rabbinic lashes for not following the rabbi's laws. So that is now. With that being said, that's why I don't understand, by the way, when people say you show me negiyah. What? Meaning you have to keep it. Even if you hold like the other opinion, not like the Rambam, but at least everyone holds can't be physical with a person who's in nidah. The only question is being physical, not intimate, a rabbinic prohibition or biblical prohibition? I don't get why people. What I say is, do you keep Hanukkah? Do you keep Purim? Those are rabbinic law, right? So what's going on over here? Okay, it needs fixing. But by the way, things are getting better. The more people learn, the more people are educated, right? And the people say, okay, I didn't know, I didn't realize. But then they get stronger, and then just like mikveh became, people are very educated about mikveh. And Mr. Haber said it's 90-something%, I think he said, of the community, of the Sephardi community, is going to 97% are going to the mikveh, which is unbelievable, which is amazing, which is great. But it needs to be 100%. 90-some% is not enough, because we have to worry about that. You can't be satisfied, Mark. Can't be satisfied. If one Jew is not keeping mikveh, it's a problem. Mark is going to be running initiatives to help that. We're looking for that one, the last few. We got to make sure that they get to the mikveh. No, I got to hear more mikveh education.
What is this? Uncovering naked.
Right. So uncovering naked, right. So that means being intimate. Meaning, according to the way. See, how do you translate this pasuk? Pasuk says, here's the pasuk where it says, Ish el kol she'er b'saro, the women that you're forbidden to, right? Lo sikravu, you shouldn't get close to reveal the nakedness. So what does that mean? Does that mean the Torah is prohibiting getting close? The act of being close? Meaning step one, that's what the Torah is forbidding, which is Maimonides, that's the first opinion of the Gemara. Or it's not forbidding the getting close, being physical with her. It's the Torah saying, don't get close to reveal the nakedness. The issue is the revealing the nakedness, not the actual getting close. It's just the Torah is
two words. If you focus on the closeness or focus on the nakedness.
Exactly. That's the question. Exactly. How do you understand? Morning, Asaf.
One is closeness is
Torah, right? Torah prohibition, right?
Nakedness. Closeness.
You got it, Mark. You got it. Very well said. Shlomo, you got it. That's the okay. By the way, when people have the right fences, you never get close. That's when people. The Mesilat Yesharim says, don't face the evil inclination. Keep a distance. I have a mashal. My mashal is Mike Tyson. Mark, you're in the hall. You can hear from the hall. I say, don't get into the ring with Mike Tyson. Because if you get into the ring with Mike Tyson, you're going to lose. With all due respect. Think of the Yetzer Hara as Mike Tyson. He bites off people's ears too. But think of he bites off more than you think of the Yetzer Hara. If you don't get in the ring with Mike Tyson, he's not going to beat you. You can't lose. You only get to lose a mic if you're in the ring with him. So the same thing with the evil inclination. If you face him, if you have a face off with him, he's going to win most likely. Most likely, you could still possibly win. But if you don't get into the ring with him, if you don't get close to him, don't face. Exactly. If you don't get close to the sin, you hear that? If you don't get close to, I'm going to go to the club, but nothing's going to happen, right? Okay, what are you doing there? Don't get close to the sin. Don't be in the club. I had a student of mine. He said he drank. Who knows what went on in the club? It's crazy. He took the booze, and who knows what happens? Terrible. A lady from Texas. Terrible. A shiksa he got connected with. Crazy. Crazy. He came close to sin, and then he sinned. So that was the story. So now Ula. Now the Gemara brings a fascinating story. Ula kihavi atimi beit Rav. When he would come from the Beit Midrash, have menashik luhu lachvate abechadayu fa'amrile abeyadayu. He would kiss his sisters on their chest, according to one opinion, and some say on their hand. Now, I want to say, and then obviously, how can you do that? Are you allowed to kiss your sister like that? The Gemara is going to say, and the Gemara now, and the Gemara says, what he said, what he did, you know what? We're going to continue. It's already 7:25. We have to explain time is, time what we have 1, 2, 3, the time goes. We're going to see how the Gemara is going to explain. I can't leave you like that. Tosha says he was a tzaddik. He was a big tzaddik. When he was kissing his sister, it was like kissing a piece of wood. You know what I mean? There was no feeling. He had no person could say you're on the level of this holy rabbi. And I want to say at Chidush, it says, when did he kiss them? When he came up from the Beit Midrash. He just got loaded up with such spirituality from the Beit Midrash. He's on a different level also. It's not that he just kissed them randomly. He was in a state of high holiness. He finished the whole day learning or whatever it was. Then he meets his sister and he gives her a kiss. But people shouldn't be kissing their sisters. You shouldn't be kissing, but we'll talk more about that tomorrow.
My brother Ron is old. But in-law for sure now.
Right.
Nieces and nephews.
Also not.
My two sisters, my three sisters.
Okay, so we'll look more into it tomorrow. Stay tuned. Have a great day, everybody. See that? You're such a holy rabbi. How do you like that? Especially after you come from a Torah class. Okay, Ralph, Morris, Emmanuel, have a great day.
You too, Rabbi.
Look what people are missing, Mark. We're missing. We're coming to. You know what I'm saying? We gotta recruit. We're giving you a homework, Mark. You know that.